AWA Championship Wrestling. The AWA presents the greatest stars in professional wrestling, bringing you the best in mat action.
This is the Pro Wrasllin Reflection Podcast with your host, the Professor Chalbelo Veracruz.
What a run!
Mr. Wonderful Tommy Wonder.
And I will take the powers of those that have no fear!
And the prodigal one, JB.
The queen, the cream of the crop.
Now it's time to go back in time in the time machine.
The dream! That's too sweet!
The living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo! Look at this! He's I don't believe it!
Street, there's trouble coming down. Hawk and the animal are coming to town.
What is going on there, Reflectionites? What is going on there, Big Vito Whites on the Big Vito brand? What is going on to the Big Vito Whites on the Patreons, on the Podbeams, and every computer, Android, iPhone application out there in the world? It is your friendly neighborhood, magnanimous one, scholarly one, and also effervescent one, but most importantly, I am the glorious one, the ever elusive, the ever objective, the only objective man in the YWC, the Professor Chalbelo Cruz, welcoming you to the PWR podcast here at the PWR Networks at podbean.com. And we're going back to the old school. We're going back to what we've been doing for the last 2 or 3 years. We're going back to episodic episodes. And what do I mean, Reflectionites? To the Magnificent Seven, the Elite Eight, the Naughty Nine. You know what that means. We go back into the archives of the YouTubes or the Daily Motions. We pick out an organization. We pick out like a former WWF show, a former NWA show. But this week, for the PWR podcast, we are going back to Minnesota. Yes, we're going back to Vern Gagne country. We're going to do the American Wrestling Association, a.k.a. the AWA, but I'm not here alone to talk about the AWA, Reflectionites. I am here with the man who eats crap. I am here with the man who eats fish, chips, dip, and shit, whatever the case may be. And right now he's eating ice cream with some, I don't know, toxic fumes in it. It's Flint, Michigan ice cream. He is your friend and mine, the conservative liberal, Mr. Wonderful, the Iron Stomach one, Tommy Strong, a.k.a. the Tommy Wonder. What is going on, my friend? How are you doing this week?
I am half awake. I work Tuesday through Saturday, but every other week I work Monday through Saturday.
Oh, wow.
Yesterday was the Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Today feels like Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired as hell. I cut my football field yard grass, and I only cut 75 yards at 100. It ain't really 100, but you know what I'm saying, to give you a mental picture.
Mm-hmm.
And my whole body hurts because the shit was about 3 feet tall and wet.
You know, you need to have the attitude like Forrest Gump. He loves to cut grass. He always cut grass, and he was happy to do it.
You know what? I used to as well, but I figured it out. When you're married with children, you cut the grass, it's an escape. When you live alone and you got a dog, there ain't no reason to cut that damn grass. What are you escaping from? Your couch? So the last couple of years, 2-3 years ago, I had a service. Actually, it was two summers ago. I had a service cut my grass because my lawnmower died. And actually it was buried in my garage. I couldn't get to it because one of my many former tenants, these hoochies that come and go. And so last year, it just got so bad that for the last month, I hired them to do it again because the weeds and the cracks and everything, I couldn't keep them gone. I'd weed whip them, and they'd come back like the next day a foot tall. So these guys kept it nice and clean, and then that guy retired. So this year I'm back to cutting it by myself, but I realized something, man. Just like I pay people to do my oil changes because I want to help the economy. I'm going to pay a dude to cut my grass. I think I'm done. I've earned it. 47, almost 48 years old. I've been cutting grass since I was probably 8. 40 years, man. That's enough for a pension. I'm getting the hell out of the grass cutting business.
You're helping out the economy. It's the American way, as they say. So, you're helping Biden, you're helping Whitmer out. Help the economy in the Michigan area.
Small business.
Okay, that too. Whatever makes you.
I'm pretty sure this dude's black, so it's a small black-owned business. I'm woke.
Well, cool. Well, you know what? Speaking of black.
No sell.
Well, I have to no sell but actually, speaking of black, and, this is a nice segue before we start our program here at the PWR podcast. We're, when we're recording this, you're going to hear this on the weekend Reflection Nights. But last week, me, I'm an ECW mark. We lost somebody, and I couldn't say, rest in peace to this certain individual. Now, my colleague TW, we might have differing opinions on this, so I'm going to go with the objective look here. I will say rest in peace to Jerome Young, a.k.a. Gangsta New Jack. Now, I know that, reputation-wise, he was a prick. He was violent. He was, he was everything that you heard of in a negative context. But you know what? The man stuck to his guns, TW. The man, had no filter. He did not care about Vince McMahon. He did not care about, the promoters in the business. He only cared about the fans that he performed for. He only cared about his business brand and the way he wanted to be presented. And, good, bad, or indifferent, New Jack did it his way. People could go on YouTube and find those infamous promos where he gave shout-outs to O.J. Simpson for taking out white people. You can go on, YouTube's for the interviews that he made fun of the South, the Confederacy, and all that stuff. And, he drew a line in the sand where, he blurred that line between reality and wrestling. And that's what was great about New Jack. So again, we could go with the stuff that he did. I just want to be quick about it because, some Reflection Nights might not like New Jack. Some Reflection Nights might like New Jack. But you got to give the good with the bad, He almost, attempted murder. He had an attempted murder case on a 17-year-old kid in ECW named Mass Transit.
That dude was 17?
He was 17.
That big dude?
Yes. He was 17 years old. Yes.
I thought that guy was old.
Number 2, he flew Vic Grimes off a scaffold and literally wanted to kill him in California in XPW. He beat up a 70-year-old man. He was the wrestler named Gypsy Joe. And another Florida wrestling show he did, he stabbed the guy 9 times. So again, with a fork, TW. So I guess, I saw the face you made, so I don't know if that helps or not.
You wonder how he didn't make it to jail. He's stabbing dudes in 8 times.
Well, he's a lucky motherfucker. But again, I just want to say I'm an ECW mark. I grew up with him in the ECW years. He jumped off the roofs. He jumped off the roofs of the ECW arena. He jumped off everything. He entertained with his guitars, bashing over people in the head. And again, when Natural Born Killers from Ice Cube and Dr. Dre played, everybody just did this. They threw up the X sign. So rest in peace, New Jack. So I'm going to give you a quick 2-minute synopsis if you want to say anything, and then we'll get the show going.
I'm going to say this. I will say my initial reaction to him dying was sad. Regardless, I'm a human first, right? Mm-hmm. Having been in the business, I would say, you get guys that are polarizing. I would say that dude's polarizing, but I would say it's probably 90-10. Don't like him, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But and you might not, and you won't be wrong. That's what I'm saying. But hear me out. The 10 that do, I don't know if I've ever said this before, but the Blue Meanie and I got our start together. He was down in Al Snow School. I was up in Canada, and we met that way. We're friends on Facebook, on Twitter, and I saw his tribute to New Jack. And my thing is this: New Jack's gone. So anybody, first of all, anyone speaks ill of the dead, no matter who it is, it's tasteless, right? For one, they can't hear you. For two, you're using something tragic like that to put yourself over. I honestly believe that when people talk shit about people that die, especially when they wish ill will on people, glad they're dead. It's tacky. But my thing is, and I will equate it to Owen Hart dying. Bret Hart's my idol. Mm-hmm. Owen Hart I liked. Bret's my idol. So when he dies, my heart goes out to Bret. My heart goes out when I see guys that I know on that ring crying. My heart goes out to my people that I've met in my life who became friends with this guy who are hurting for him. So when I saw Meanie's tribute to him, I thought that's why I don't talk shit about people. And I wouldn't have talked shit about New Jack. I didn't know half the stuff you just told me, and I thought Mass Transit and that Vic Viper guy, Vic Grind, whatever, were the same person. I thought it was the same incident, right? Right. So there's one more thing to say about it. All that stuff he did, he very seriously, no matter if he crossed lines or not, I'm somebody who's very familiar with crossing lines, he might have been living the gimmick, man. He might have been doing every single thing he did was for the business. And someone like me, I got nothing but respect for that because I say it every week. When I got the nickname Potato from Travis, it was for the business. He was my boy. I punched him because I knew we were going to be fine afterwards, and I expected him to hit me back. New Jack was extreme in the ECW. He put the extreme in it. But you know what? That was this life. He's on to the next one now, so nobody's perfect. You know, some of the stuff he did, like I said, it's amazing he didn't go to jail or whatever.
That is true.
The throwing off the scaffold, I mean, you can play, I didn't mean to, you know.
No, he wanted to. He's actually admitted he wanted to.
But I'm saying it would be tough to prove in court because there's about 900 other incidents where they can show him throwing a guy through a scaffold, and that time could have just been a tragic accident, even though it may or may not have been, right? He probably thought that when he did it, like, I'll just play it off like I didn't mean to. But at the end of the day, it's a human being that's gone. 58's young. No pun intended. That's his last name, right? And, you know, I saw Paul Lee's tribute to him. And, again, that's someone's friend. That's someone's possibly, I don't know if he has kids. It's someone's father, brother, son. So, you know, rest in peace to him, man. I don't want to kick him while he's down, no pun intended. You know, it's tacky. And again, there's people that didn't like him, but you know what? You got to respect him.
Right. I don't want to kick him while he's down.
One way or the other.
He's an
business that I tried to be one and didn't. So God bless him.
God bless him. He is an extreme icon in every sense of the word. He didn't live the gimmick. He was the gimmick of New Jack. But anyway, let's get into this PWR episode, and we're going to pay tribute to Vern Gagne Country, the American Wrestling Association, AWA, from September 3rd, 1985, from the Tropicana at Atlantic City, New Jersey, TW. And I picked this for, you know, not because of the stuff that happened within the matches, Reflection Nights. I just wanted to go boardroom style, TW. You know how we do boardroom style. Think of the date I'm picking, not September 3rd, 1985. This is months after WrestleMania. This is 2 years after the purge that AWA suffered, losing Hulk Hogan, losing Jesse the Body Ventura, losing Bobby the Brain Heenan.
That's right. Bobby was the flashback match.
Right. And whatchamacallit?
Slaughter.
The losing Slaughter too. Well, he didn't lose Slaughter. Well, they gained Slaughter. But let me just say this. When you lost Hogan, you lost David Schultz, you lost Jesse Ventura, you lost Bobby Heenan, and you lost Mean Gene Okerlund. What did AWA try to do? What did Vern Gagne try to do, Reflection Nights? He tried to rebound, and actually, he didn't lose ground, maybe television-wise. I'm hearing the empty cut, TW. But anyway, what did he try to do, TW, to gain ground again on the WWF? What did he try to do to gain ground on the NWA? He had some people. He had Rick Martel, but he wasn't the model here. He had the Road Warriors. He had the Fabulous Ones. So, TW, let's talk about that. You know, when you lose and he had the Freebirds, too, on AWA television. So let's talk about that. You know, we don't have the dirt sheets. We don't have Meltzer. We don't have Alvarez. We don't have social media talking about AWA is dying, because I think if we had social media, we would shovel AWA down to the ground, put it down 6 feet under. But what say you, seeing those names that they lost and trying to rebound with the names that I just mentioned, how would that look perception-wise on TV? Not only to mention the fact They got a wrestling show every week on ESPN. So that's a big deal because when you compare the three leagues, AWA is on ESPN, NWA is on TBS 605, and WWF has the strongest, and I'm putting it in quotes, the strongest syndication deals in the United States. What say you, TW?
It's crazy because when you watch this, it almost feels like NWA, right? Because you got the Road Warriors, you got the Freebirds, you got Jimmy Garvin. I don't remember Jimmy Garvin being there. But again, 85, I'm not watching wrestling yet. I watched wrestling after WrestleMania 1, closer to right around this time. And I also didn't have, obviously, ESPN because I didn't have cable. But, you know, it's funny because if you watch this show, it's again, I know I always come off as a Vince McMahon apologist or whatever you want to call it. I still don't think the hate for him is warranted. It's
the word is shill, not an apologist. Shill is better.
Fine. But here's what it is. You have all this talent just in this one episode that you had me watch. And it did nothing. Take the same tag team, the Road Warriors, to the NWA, and their fucking household names. You take them to WWF, their household names. Jimmy Garvin's a household name in the NWA. But here, and then Rick Martel specifically is the guy I wanted to bring up. Rick Martel in the AWA is like the white meat babyface, can't speak a lick of English. He's better here. He does an after-match promo on this episode. Much better than that one we watched. And he basically, you just see him, and he's just boring. He's literally vanilla. And then you bring him in a Strike Force. He's got longer hair. He's a little bit older. It was kind of weird to me, him and Tom Zink as a tag team, almost like father-son instead of like Bo and Luke Duke or whatever. And then you put Tito with him, and it's better, right? Because Tito and Martel are a little bit more the same age. But when Martel turns heel and becomes the model, gimmick or no gimmick, cartoony or not, that is the best version of Rick Martel of all time, is the model Rick Martel. I get him being the white meat babyface in French-Canadian Canada, up in Quebec and all that, because same thing with Dino Bravo. Dino Bravo never be a babyface here. But up there, heck yeah, he is. He's the Bruno of French-Canada, area where they speak the French-Canadian up in Montreal and Quebec and all that area around there, but not anywhere else. They're heels. Right. Frenchie Martin, heel. Rick Martel, heel. And the model Rick Martel is probably one of the most underrated characters or just wrestlers of all time. And I don't know anybody.
Wait a minute. So if the model Rick Martel was the AWA World Champion with that gimmick and the arrogance and all that stuff, that would have made ESPN must-see TV.
Entertaining. Yes. Because look who their heel champion was. Larry Zbyszko, 197 years old. Nick Bockwinkel, 297 years old. And then they show that match against Vern Gagne. He looked younger in that promo when they were talking about the match from 2 years earlier. And he looked like someone's grandpa in his underwear because he didn't wear knee pads, bald as shit with a horseshoe haircut, and he's wrestling. He made Nick Bockwinkel look young. And that's the problem. You got all this stuff over there, and yeah, it's awesome. They put the belt on Rick Martel because they were trying the Hulk Hogan. Obviously, he's no Hulk Hogan, but they were trying the Hulk Hogan babyface champion method instead of the NWA Ric Flair heel champion method.
Well, and to be foul. Yeah, to be foul. They were actually ahead of its time with Rick Martel as the babyface AWA champion, in my opinion, because if this was AWA, let's say 1993, if it was in business, he would have been compared to Bret the Hitman Hart. He would have been compared to the Heartbreak Kid. But then, if he still has the same vanilla gimmick, he would be the weakest AWA champion, even still in the 90s, even in comparison to those guys.
Who am I comparing him to, though? Because he's right there with Ric Flair, but he's a good guy. Ric Flair's a bad guy, would beat Ric Flair in 85.
Right. But Ric Flair is miles away in charisma, miles away in even heat.
Right. But again, the Rick Martel charisma as a heel is there. I wanted nothing to do with that guy as a babyface. As a heel, loved him. He was right up there with Mr. Perfect and Rick Rude and Razor Ramon, and all those guys were cocky heels that I gravitated towards, that I liked. Those were my guys. Bret Hart was that too. And then Shawn Michaels was the guy. Bret was the cocky heel too. And then they reverse roles, and then Shawn's the boy toy with Scary Sherry and all that. And he's the cocky heel, and to me, possibly the best one ever. The pre-comeback Shawn Michaels, like pre-God Shawn Michaels,
right?
Pre-finding his smile.
Yeah. So with the logistics here, Reflectionites and TW, if you didn't know this, the deal with ESPN was more of let's say a handshake deal, because Vern Gagne knew somebody within ESPN who was a fan of wrestling, and Vern needed. Maybe it was nepotism, but it was good to have a friend or a network connection, so to speak, because again, WWE was kicking ass in every sense of the word, stealing other wrestling promotions, syndication deals, TW. So this was this was like Paul Heyman trying to find a network, and Vern Gagne was lucky enough to find ESPN. ESPN needed hours on TV because, let's be honest here, TW, you didn't have cable. I didn't have cable in 1985, but ESPN was building towards being the epicenter of a sports channel. When you have bull riding as your lead-in, they didn't have Monday Night Football yet. They didn't really have the baseball package, not to the extent that they have now. They didn't have an NBA package. They didn't have an NHL, package to watch all these stuff. You saw some generic sporting events like bull riding or bowling. So wrestling was a good kind of variation, TW. So what say you about the merger, if you will, or this synergy between wrestling and ESPN? Because it worked for a couple of years, because ESPN had wrestling from 85, let's say, till maybe 1993 or 1994. Right. So what say you, TW?
They had holes to fill, man. They absolutely didn't. They when the WWE just signed that deal with the Peacock, didn't ESPN were like, suck it and stop talking about them? Yeah,
because ESPN wanted to have WWE on their on ESPN Plus.
They've always been friendly to wrestling, like Global. I watch Global because of ESPN. I watch those AWA rewinds or whatever, classic ESPN or whatever, played the AWA stuff. So yeah, they've always been kind to wrestling. And, and the best part is, especially in this Twitter age, you get people on Twitter, losers who hang out in their basement who think UFC isn't going to work. And they bash ESPN anytime someone brings up wrestling and say stuff like, you guys show real sports. Why are you talking about that fake crap? And the on-air personalities who tweet and everything will defend it or just flat out ignore them. Suck it, I'm not taking the bait. But I like that they talk. I like that Coach went there and then came back. I think he's gone again. Is he gone again? He only does like 3 shows or something.
No, he's gone full. He
is gone. Yeah.
Yeah, he did his own thing.
I like that Coach transitioned to ESPN, and he was great on ESPN. I think he looked like he actually seemed more like an ESPN guy all along than he was with WWE. And I haven't seen what's her name, Charlie Caruso. I haven't seen her on ESPN, but I don't.
She's on the podcast now. She has her own podcast on the ESPN networks. So we look at this again before we the way we'll do this, TW, is we're not going to go segment by segment because some of the matches were boring, but the main event is something to talk about, but we'll filter in certain things I wanted to talk about here. So let's talk about my favorite and your favorite. He's the R. Kelly of professional wrestling, rock and roll, Buck Zumhofe. This man, not only the match he had was bad, but the promo that he had, that he was chasing.
Oh my God.
Steven Regal for the AWA Light Heavyweight Championship for 2 years
ago.
He lost years ago. Is the 2-year feud that I didn't A, know about, or B, cared about. So what say you, TW, about the pedophile rock and roll Buck Zumhofe, and still has the same crappy Beach Boys song playing on his boombox?
The weird thing is he was dressed like Elvis. I don't remember him ever being dressed like Elvis. And the thing was, so not 85 because I started watching 85, but I want to say like 88, 87, maybe even 86. AWA must have really been hemorrhaging money because Brad Reingans was over in AWA. He was like a tag team champion or something there.
Yes.
Buck Zumhoff was either chasing a tag belt or a light heavyweight belt. Both of those guys were Saturday morning jobbers. They literally were already in the ring, Buck Zumhoff, and he'd get his ass beat by somebody. But then you'd see him on ESPN fighting for a belt. And you're just like, those dudes were struggling to pay bills if Vern let them do jobs for WWE, because they were guys they pushed. You remember Brad Reingans?
Of course, I remember.
By the way, Don Kernoodle died today, so rest in peace to that guy.
Oh yeah, God bless him too. He was a tag team partner of Sergeant Slaughter in the Starrcade years. So rest in peace to him too. It's funny because again, ESPN. The reach of ESPN wasn't as significant as it is now. So, like you said, Rock and Roll Buck Zumhoff is a jobber on WWF Superstars or Wrestling Challenge. But here he is challenging for the AWA, the Light Heavyweight Championship. He is a top contender for Rick Martel in the AWA Heavyweight Championship. So, the look of that, TW, that Buck Zumhoff is maybe a
dressed like Elvis.
Dressed like Elvis with playing the Beach Boys on a boombox. And we know he's a future pedophile in the making. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But he's a top 10 contender for every title in the AWA. To me, that just says that the brand of the AWA, they call themselves the major leagues of professional wrestling. How is it major when Rock and Roll Buck Zumhoff is probably number 7 in the top 10 ratings?
It means they have a very small roster. Probably the size of a Major League Baseball team or less.
And did you see the move that he won, that match? It was so sloppy. It was a slingshot splash. He did the Vader bomb. He tried to do a Vader bomb, and it looked ugly.
And he killed him a couple times, but nothing like that tag match.
We'll get to the tag
match was death.
We'll get to the tag match. So, again, we're going boardroom style, a little bit of abbreviation reflection. That's because, we're going to merge what we've seen with the business at hand. And TW, before we even talk about, gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Precious here, we remember him battling the Von Erichs, because this is actually a couple of weeks before he battles Kerry Von Erich at Super Clash 85. So this was AWA's attempt to answer WrestleMania 1 at Madison Square Garden. This is the AWA's attempt to, catch fire before, NWA Starrcade in December of 1985. So, TW, NWA and WWF have worked into, the closed circuit formula, so to speak. It's not pay-per-view. I don't remember AWA's closed circuit methodology. I don't remember the closed circuit formula because, their biggest, let's say, event that I can remember was Super Sunday, and that was in 83 when it was Hogan and Bockwinkel. But all they did was the St. Paul Civic Center, TW, and the building across the street for closed circuit. So they didn't really do what the NWA and WWF does in terms of going across the country with the closed circuit. So they lost traction to me. They tried to do Super Clash in Chicago, Comiskey Park, which is a big venue. We know this, a 50,000 seat, baseball stadium. It's good. I like the ambiance and they got 30,000, which is okay. But I don't know that if they're closed circuit, if they were only local to Chicago or they tried to go around America, because I don't remember that, TW. So they were trying to catch up with the Joneses to me. What say you, TW?
When was that one? 85 what?
It was in September 85. It was a couple of weeks. It was the end of September.
When was Wrestle Rock?
86.
In the summertime, like June, maybe May?
April of 86.
Okay. So that, when I was a kid, I don't know what AWA is yet. Right? In 86, okay. I'm watching wrestling because that's after WrestleMania 2. I'm up in Mansalona, Michigan, which is way up here. I'm here. I was up here. And the dude next door was telling me about, dude, Wrestle Rock was badass, man. It was the Rockers versus, I think Buddy Rose and Doug Summers was the tag match, the titles or whatever. But he's talking all about it because, and that one I think was in Minnesota. Maybe Wrestle Rock was in Minnesota.
Was that the Twin Dome?
They had closed circuit up here, in Michigan. They had it up there because he told me but what they did was, because some of them closed circuits, like WrestleMania 2, I could have went to Cobo Hall or Joe Louis, I think it was Joe Louis Arena, and they showed it on a TV screen and Joe Louis, but
Right.
one side. Like they didn't do the whole thing like a hockey game. The camera or the
it would have been ridiculous.
And
it would have been
well, you could do all four sides, but it wouldn't be very big. But they had a big screen that you could do it. I never went to a closed circuit event. I never understood the lure. Like, I'm like, I would just rather rent the damn VHS tape in 8 weeks and sit on my couch and watch it than sit in the arena and watch it on a movie screen.
It was like the movie theater experience for wrestling. So either you go to couple, but live. That's what it was.
Right. You didn't have to worry about spoilers and stuff like that. Like, I still don't think I've ever seen Hogan Warrior other than when we covered it. Like, that was my first time watching that WrestleMania, and I don't even remember if I watched the whole damn WrestleMania.
No, but I'm saying, TW, like, AWA and NWA was really trying to get into that closed circuit business. I think Vern Gagne did not take the closed circuit formula seriously, which could have helped
a hand to shake and then
that
get
too.
in.
Or Vince McMahon was being what he was, evil, and froze him out of all these arenas and movies.
You can't use me. Yep.
Yeah, so it's a sad part of the business, TW. I know that you can you shill for Vince McMahon for trying to take somebody, try to take money away from Vern Gagne?
Hey man, there's cliches exist for a reason. One of the most famous cliches of all times is only the strong survive. People will tell you world class was the best at production.
Yes, it was.
They weren't good at anything else. So Vince took what they were good at, added it to what someone else was good at, and someone else is good at, and he was great at all of it. So that was the difference. But
I just want to acknowledge that, so we,
you feel bad for people. You feel bad for people, but at the end of the day, it's like right now, you'll get guys who are WWE, guys who don't say bad things about AEW. Stone Cold on the Jericho interview. It's another place for the boys to work. And as a wrestler, that's what you want, right?
Right.
As a wrestler loyal to one of them, you don't want them to bash that one. Like I read somewhere, I don't know if I read it on the Hustle page or whatever, AEW took a shot at Shawn Michaels recently. And I just thought, what? Like, why would he be the guy you take a shot at when that guy's...
No, it was during a match where they kind of paid homage, but people thought it was a mockery of when Shawn Michaels said, "I love you" to Ric Flair. The Young Bucks did that same exact thing to somebody else.
Okay.
So some people thought it was a mockery, and some people say, "Don't you get it?"
I'm gonna shock you, and I'm gonna shock Travis if he still listens. I ain't a fan of the old Bucks, but you'd have to be an idiot to think that those two weren't in some way, shape, or form inspired by not only Shawn, but Shawn and Marty. And
of course.
There's no way those guys would ever have anything ill will to say about Shawn Michaels. I would say that was more of a homage, like you said. I did hear it was Young Bucks saying "I love you" before they turned heel, right?
Yeah, but they were heels, but they were just trying. They were making a mockery of that WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels "I love you" to Ric Flair, that moment.
Right.
So.
Gotcha.
Going back into this AWA from September 3rd, 1985 at the Tropicana TW, we get an appearance from the gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. And like I said, we remember him from World Class. He does the NWA tours here. And from this particular episode, TW, he was suspended. I don't know why, but I think the suspension was good because, like you say, make him miss you. So if he was wrestling for the NWA in the Carolinas or if he was wrestling in Texas against the Von Erichs, it's a great time to get away from the Minnesota area. So that's a good thing. And he's the quote-unquote number one contender to the model. Well, I want to call him the model Rick Martel, but Ricky Martel TW. And, the funny thing is, of course, it was a squash match, and he won with the Brainbuster, so we don't have to talk about that.
Which they didn't even call it the Brainbuster. They call it a suplex. I'm like, he just killed him. He goes, he suplexed him into like a pile driver is what the guy said.
The one thing I just want to say is that he is with the character that he was coming out to every girl's crazy about us. I just want to say I just want to say two things because right now I'm not going to be a hypocrite to people because I'm the objective man here. So I have to go with the old with the new here. In 2021 to TW AEW, Tony Khan, he's buying the rights to certain songs for wrestlers that he feels deserve it.
Fit him. Yeah.
Yeah, so, Orange Cassidy got some music in the 80s. Jungle Boys got some music from the 80s. That's their theme song that Tony Khan is paying for them. Now, I'm going to be objective here. I like the idea of doing that because, sometimes it fits the characters. But for 2021 to TW, he's not picking the right songs, in my humble opinion. Like in the 80s, people pick, Jimmy Garvin with that song fits him. In ECW, Paul E. had the right songs for the right. We even talk about New Jack, Natural Born Killers. We talk about Enter Sandman for the Sandman. So it just works. But I don't know if he's picking the right songs, TW. So, what did Los Rudos come out to? What music did you pick? Did you pick the song or did you had them promoted
for me? And I hate it. And people to this day hear it and come up to me and go, Los Rudos is War Lowrider.
Oh, okay.
You talk about stereotyping. But Lopez stole it from us and did it for his TV show. And then I ended up using different songs over the years. None of them stuck. That damn song stuck. Like I said, someone will come up to me at a wrestling show and be like, Low, Ra, every time. And I hated that song as a kid, but it worked. I'd be lying if I didn't think it was a fit, but I came to the ring to Kiss and Poison and Bon Jovi when I was the bad guy before I became Los Rudos. But it worked. And I fought it, and I lost, and I'm glad I lost. And I don't hate it as much as I used to because looking back on it, now it means something to me as opposed to just being a song that I didn't like on the radio. But the one, for example, for me, as soon as you start talking about it, Iron Man by Road Warriors was fine, which, by the way, this is my own theory, but the Ultimate Warrior's ring music is Paranoid by Ozzy, by Black Sabbath. And I think it was done on purpose because the Road Warriors used Iron Man, and then they used Paranoid for the Ultimate Warrior because Warrior. And if you listen to the song, they change it enough that they can't get sued because it's like, but if you listen to Paranoid by Ozzy and Sabbath, it's the same song. But for me, the absolute greatest entrance music of all times as far as a real song, and then they stopped using it and then used another real song, was the Steiner Brothers. They came to the ring in WCW as in NWA with Welcome to the Jungle by Guns N' Roses, and it was perfect. Like, these dudes just came out, just jacked. Scott Steiner does the Frankensteiner does all. You're just like blown away by them. That song's perfect. Then they come to the WWF and they use the U of M fight song, and I'm like, what? It's like it's I get it, but it's so uninspiring. Like dun, 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 in this empty ass arena, and you're just like, what? But I know now in hindsight, they probably don't need permission to play the U of M fight song because it's so old. It's a standard. So you don't have to have permission. But just so you know my opinion on all of it,
what?
I think it's absolutely stupid that bands tell people they can't use their music. It's a free advertisement for you, for someone to come to the ring. I went into a bar in Chicago.
But they always think that you're profiting off of their work.
No, so if they sell the song, fine. But
I'm just giving you the logistics.
Let's say Guns N' Roses. I don't think, first of all, how would they even know? Someone would have to say, hey, man, I heard these wrestlers, they came out to the ring to your music. What? That's awesome. That's what I would say, right? That's awesome. But all these business people got to get involved. But it's a free advertisement. But WWE always puts out hits albums of all the ring musics, right? Imagine if they just used real songs and then they put out compilations with real songs. You'd make money because they'd be now selling your shit. But they're not making any money. And now I think if you watch NXT, there's always some indie band that no one's ever heard of is the theme song for TakeOver or whatever. I guarantee you they're not paying them to use that song. They're using it to get that band over. You'd have to be an idiot to say no to it, right?
Well, because again, you're getting... It's a handshake deal, and we don't know if they're paying, they're getting copyrights. Yeah, I get you.
I want someone to use your music. Because now it's... First of all, I don't hear the damn Steiner Brothers come to the ring than Guns N' Roses and think, oh yeah, Welcome to the Jungle by Steiner Brothers. I immediately think Guns N' Roses is on the radio, right? Sandman comes to the ring, and I want to say Sandman did it, and they were like, okay, we're not going to pay it, and they didn't pay it as far as I know. They just used it anyway, which is
they got away with it because there were a small indie company with no awareness, you could say.
But it's ironic that they would get away with that one when that's the band that sued Napster. Mm-hmm. That's the one who was like, you're stealing our shit. And at the end of the day, I try to explain this to people. The whole purpose of the CD, the record, the cassette tape, the 45, all of it was your commercial to get someone to come see you play live. So that's why back in the day, nobody made money off records. Then in the 90s, all of a sudden, that's how you made your money, was selling records. You got Shania Twain. She didn't tour for the first time until her third record. That's how much money that girl made off the first two, that she didn't even tour. And then she toured in the third one and broke records for touring. But
some people
Kiss put out an album every 6 months. Do you know why? So they can stay on the road and make money, because now a new record came out. Now you got an excuse to go see them because now you want to hear them do the new stuff because you've already heard them do the other record. But not no more. It just became greedy. Now nobody makes money off of CDs anymore. They bit the hand that fed them. They were making tons of money. Now they make pennies.
They're finding new ways to make money when it comes to social media. They're finding new ways to make money with iTunes.
Streaming licenses.
Yeah. They've been doing crypto before crypto became a cool term. That's what it was when they found the ways to make money. But anyway, before we get to another segment, what say you about Jimmy Garvin? Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. This man had untapped potential with the way his gimmick was. I don't think he was respected enough to get. I'm not saying he deserved a heavyweight title run, TW. He was in the main event. You know, he challenged Rick Martel for a reason, but that character should have got more play to me as either a challenger for every title in the country or at least a run. Maybe a 6-month run, but some sort of run. What say you, TW?
Jimmy Garvin was a little on the shorter side, right? And
I give you
I'll
that.
be honest, because this business is most of it, especially then, is image. I think Garvin versus Martel, Garvin beating him is believable. Garvin beating Hulk Hogan, Garvin beating Sid Vicious, Garvin beating anybody bigger.
Andre.
You know, Andre is not believable, right? But I think, I don't know if you're going to understand what I'm going to try to word it in a way to make it understandable. Jimmy Garvin, to me, and I noticed it in this episode because he flexes. Jimmy Garvin is in great shape, and he's always been in great shape. But the way he looked at that Freebird induction ceremony, bald in his body, that's how I always saw him. Like, I never realized he was in great shape, because I think what he had going against him was he had that giant mop of hair and that giant beard, and it wasn't the sexy look that, like, Magnum TA had the same kind of look, but A, he was taller, and B, he was blonde. Right? And his beard was a little bit more 5 o'clock shadow with a little bit of maybe a day or two more than that.
And he was more ripped than Jimmy Garvin, to be fair.
For sure. But what I'm saying is Jimmy was in good shape.
Yeah, he was.
And I would say Magnum had a more cool persona, whereas Jimmy was more annoying. But I think what hurt him was he looked like an uncle. He didn't look like an athlete. But if you pay attention, like Total Body.
Okay.
A lot of his promos, he's wearing shirts with the jeans because he's doing the chores at the farm and all
He
that.
looks like the guitarist, not the lead guitarist, but a guitarist for Bon Jovi. That's the way he looks.
Player. That's what he looks like. Magnum's a guitar player. He's a bass player. That's what
okay. There's the picture reflection. Yes. If you don't have it right there,
that hurt him because and he the best he ever looked was as the Freebird when they had those matching tights that kind of.
You think? Like I thought this look was the best. The Freebird, he's looking older.
Well, no. I'm saying the outfit, the whole look, like. Because they had those cool.
I get you.
The best part about it was they didn't look like Freebirds. They just looked like a tag team, right? And every now and again,
and he could bounce. And he could bounce off to Michael P.S. Hayes' character and gimmick too, so it could work.
He worked up his charisma, but like the Shawn Michaels, the figure I'm looking at right now, where he had the black and silver cow print and the holes in it and the silver whatever. The Freebirds had that look, or they had the blue tights, but they looked like a team. Whenever he was by himself, he had them boring-ass plain white trunks, the Nike or bike pads from Kmart, and then white boots. He had no real flash. And then, but if you look at that outfit, it's the exact same outfit Ric Flair has, but Ric Flair has the RF written on his boot and like that fancy font. He's wearing pink, purple, green, powder blue. He's got
he switched up. He switched up. I get you.
But even if he just wore pink, like the model wore pink or blue, Garvin wore boring white with boring white boots and boring black knee pads. There was no...
And also a black boa. He had that black fur boa, whatever that's called.
Helps. Once that's gone, he just plain Jane.
All right. Well, you know, I think he's untapped potential. They should have given him more. They should have given him more. That's all I'm saying. That's what...
Especially there. But
especially
we both know in hindsight, they were on their last legs, and obviously he doesn't take long to end up in the NWA.
Well, it just shows how Vern just is stubborn to everything. He had Hulk Hogan, and if he found a way to negotiate with Hulk Hogan on a deal, maybe in 2021 to TW, we would be saying the AWA network or the AWA Peacock deal.
And he was there when he did Rocky 3, right? He did the WWF after Rocky 3.
Yeah, he left WWE after he got fired, and then did Rocky, and then went to the AWA.
Right. What?
That's the chronology. He got fired because he was about to shoot. Yeah. From Vince Senior.
AWA?
Then got signed to the AWA.
Because he was Sterling Golden in the WWF.
No, he was Hulk Hogan.
He was?
Yes, he was Sterling Golden in Mid-South.
Oh, because he wrestled Andre in 1980 at the Shea Stadium show, right?
Yes, he did.
Sabisco
San Martino. So now for the Peace Day Resistance Reflection Nights in TW. The reason why I picked this was the music video because Vern Gagne, again, was trying to catch up with the Joneses, so to speak. He was trying to catch up with Vince McMahon. He was trying to catch up with Rockin' Wrestling TW. The Road Warriors. Again, this team, wherever they went, were the tag team champions or were the number one contenders to the tag team championship belts. But that's not the reason why I picked this episode. The reason why I picked this episode was Vern Gagne and Greg Gagne thought it would be cool to put them in the studio to cut a video. TW, what say you about the video you saw?
When you said you picked it for a reason, and I said, I think I know which reason that was before we hit record. This was it.
Yes, it was.
I passing it when I was watching this. I thought it was going to be another interview. Then I hear this rapping or chatting to music, and then a couple times I go, talk. You know, like I thought it was just like a highlight video of them killing people with some shitty song I never heard. And then I look up, and then Animal starts rapping or whatever, and I'm like, man, this is Super Bowl Shuffle. This might be worse because at least the Super Bowl Shuffle's real people who just won a Super Bowl, or actually they did it before they won the Super Bowl and then it blew up. These guys are supposed to be the two baddest dudes on the planet, and they go in the studio and do the corniest shit of all time. And I sat there, I almost paused it and texted you and went, how did I not know this existed before today?
This is why I'm the professor. This is why I know these things. And TW, this should have been on the soundtrack to the Wrestle Rock Rumble because they were there in 86. They could have just put this in the can and put this with everything else they did for Wrestle Rock Rumble, that album, if it was an album. That's how bad it was.
And then their interview with Larry was almost as worse. It was, I don't care about money. Paul doesn't. Animal cares about money.
Well, wait, before you jump the gun here, Reflection Nights, again, this is keeping up with the Joneses here. Larry Sabisco, the man that, took out Bruno Sammartino, and he was self-proclaimed the living legend, had his own talk show. He was trying to catch up with the Piper's Pits and all this stuff, TW, to be fair, I think.
To be fair.
He's the right character to have a show like this, but I don't think his character was refined enough to be a jackass, number one. Number two, this was not in front of a crowd. This was in the locker room, so it really drew no heat to me. Is that Matt Riddle? Well, yes, it is. The original bro.
Yep.
Good stuff there.
I got AJ Styles. Go ahead.
But TW, you caught me off guard here. This is what happens, Reflection Nights. He catches me off guard. So if you're seeing this on Twitch, God bless you. But if you're hearing this on the pod beams, you don't know what happened, why I paused. That's why I paused. But anyway, TW, in this corner with Larry Zbyszko is supposed to be like the Piper's Pit. It's Larry Zbyszko and Larry Nelson interviewing the Road Warriors here before we get to the logistics.
Made it worse right away.
Right. I guess
Larry.
Well, Larry needed Larry, so that's, I guess, a play on words. But TW, it was all off to me because, number one, it's not in front of a live crowd, so it gets no heat. Number two, you can't have counterpoint host. If Larry is supposed to be a dick, if Larry loves the Road Warriors. Yeah, you can't have good cop, bad cop. If Larry loves the Road Warriors, let him love the Road Warriors. If he hates Rick Martel and has him on his show, let him hate Rick Martel and just draw that heat. What say you about what Vern Gagne thought he was trying to do in this corner and Larry Zbyszko? And talk about whatever with this interview with the Road Warriors.
What you do is you have Larry interview one person, and then you have the other Larry interview someone else, and then their part should be them two giving shit to the other one for not asking the right questions or going too hard on somebody. Doing it right there all together is dumb. Why do you even have the guys there? If these two are just going to talk to each other, why do you even have these other guys there? One thing I will say, that was the youngest I've ever seen Paul Ellering look.
With the blonde hair?
He almost looked like Sting when he was transitioning between Surfer Sting to NWO Sting when he grew his hair out and it was like blonde and black. And I had to look twice going, is that Sting? I'm like, holy shit, that's Paul Ellering? I'm like, but he talked good. He made a blunder, but he covered up for it when he said the greatest tag team of our times, the greatest tag team of all times. And I just thought, well, that covers our time when you say all time. But I think he realized, he said, oops, I shouldn't have said our. I said all time. But, and then Hawk looks like me on this show half the time because I forget it's on video now, where he looks like he's doing 800 other things but paying attention to what's going on. And then he
doesn't know which camera to look at. That's what when you looked at this.
I don't care about money. He's like, Paul handles the money. I just want to beat people up. You think Animal cares about the money? So he recovered well, but he definitely – and it looked like they were getting dressed and ready to go have their match, and someone just sat down next to him and said, hey, let's do a segment. That's not a segment to me. That's a guerrilla radio interview. That's not like a segment is the Piper Pit set or the flower shop or the snake pit or the body shop or the barber shop. Like I hate that Highlight Reel and Miz TV and whatever other fucking show. I liked better when Alexa Bliss had the sofa brought out on the stage, and Abraham Washington did that where they did it up there. That I liked. I don't like it in the ring. In the ring, it's just like it's
cheesy,
it's dumb. And you know someone's beating up a TV or slamming a chair. It's almost like it's in there so someone can take a bump. That's whereas like two of the most iconic things. There's three iconic things. I'm gonna let you guess which ones are the three of those segments back in the 80s and 90s. What are the top three in my mind? And the third one I had to remember, as I said, too. The three biggest moments, there's even a fourth one. I just had another one. But the three or four biggest moments in those histories of those on-site sets. Give me what you think.
Piper's Pit basically made the memories. Coconut, Jimmy Suckman.
Right. That's one. I'm talking incidents. It doesn't all have to be one show. Piper Pit's one.
Shawn Michaels barbershop window.
Right.
And three, I actually like the Piper's Pit flower shop back and forth.
That's the fourth one that I remembered where Adonis attacked him. But the third one was actually 1 and 2. First one was the coconut. The second one was Jake the Snake turning face when the Honky Tonk Man hit him with the guitar on the snake pit. Because he didn't like
I like that one, but then I have to add an extra one. I think the Piper's Pit with Andre turning on Hogan, that's big stuff too.
Right.
But
I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about I'm comparing it to taking the bump in the ring.
Okay.
The coconut wasn't a bump in the ring. He took the bump. He took the bump on the Piper's Pit, and Marty took the bump through the glass window, and Snake took the guitar on his snake pit. You don't need to be in the ring to take these bumps, is what I'm saying.
I get you.
But I don't. But obviously, Andre Hogan Piper's Pit, it was a little soft for me because, Hulk, you're bleeding. You got your cross. That made Piper look like a little bitch to me. But I get it. Also, the same day the Bulldogs lost the tag belts. It was the worst episode of Superstars of my life.
But you're proving a point to the Reflectionites here, because with this in this corner with Larry Zbyszko, what can you do in the locker room? I mean, Road Warriors could beat up Larry Zbyszko if they choose to, but no crowd reaction. This is a TV reaction that really doesn't generate anything unless you want to pay money to see Larry Zbyszko get a tag team partner to face the Road Warriors in Minnesota. So it does nothing for anybody.
And two other ones that weren't Piper's Pit. They were just standalone wrestling challenge interviews with Mean Gene. The Warrior having Papa Shango bleeding down his headband, and DiBiase dribbling the basketball with the little kid. Those are iconic, but they're in front of the crowd where you get the feedback immediately from it. But that locker room, but again, it's the locker room. It's the two of them nitpicking with each other, which makes the other guys wonder, why are we here if they're just going to talk to each other? It's a weird, I get it. You got to do something different. You got nothing to lose. Turns out you had a lot to lose because you're out of business now. But at the time, they just tried to be, what's the word?
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Well, no, they tried to do something different. Ingenuity, but I don't know what the word. Ingenuity.
Out the box. They went out the box from thinking outside the box, but they needed to think inside the box and keep up with the Joneses.
But their other problem was, other than Rick Martel and then finally Curt Hennig, Curt Hennig came too late, too little, too late, because he had to beat Bockenwickel for that belt, right?
Well, in '85, Curt Hennig is still molding himself and getting the rep.
Right.
No, he did, but that was 87. That was 87. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But in '85, Curt Hennig.
Before Curt Hennig wins that belt, Martel's got the little window where Martel's in. It was a year or so long, but Bockenwickel, Vern, that match, Vern versus Bockenwickel, was a world title.
80. That was 80. That was a classic match from '81 that they showed here.
And he looked 1,000 years old. But Zbyszko's old. Obviously, Vern's old. Bockenwickel's old.
Baron.
I don't think Jimmy Garvin was old. And then Zbyszko, after that aired, the next episode that came on, Zbyszko lost the belt to Mr. Saito in Japan the same weekend that Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas. So that's 90?
So, February 90.
So you end up, did Zbyszko win it from Martel? Didn't Stan Hansen win it from Martel?
No, Zbyszko won it in '89 in the Battle Royal when Jerry Lawler left.
Oh, because who did Lawler win it from?
Hennig.
Okay, and then before, who did Hennig win it from? Bockenwickel. Did Bockenwickel win it from Martel?
Bockenwickel got it back after Hansen left the AWA.
Because Hansen broke Martel's neck. So then nobody was champion?
Broke his back
with the Boston Crab or whatever.
No.
And then hit the post, but then put him in the Boston Crab. So did the belt because he was hurt?
No. Hansen just left the company because he didn't get paid.
Champ?
Yeah, he left as champ.
He won it from Martel, and then he left, and they just gave it to Bockenwickel?
Yep. They didn't want to do a tournament.
No wonder they're gone. Dude.
You should just focus on the show, TW. You're getting mad about future stuff that happens.
I can't believe in '85, Martel's champion, and then by the time they go under in '90, Zbyszko and Bockenwickel and Hansen were your champions, and then you finally put it on Hennig, and it's too little, too late. And Hennig left with it, or did they?
No, Hennig lost to Lawler in '88,
roll of coins,
and then he left for the WWF.
The roll of coins.
And then lost
to the claw, to the belly, or whatever the hell.
No, it was a punch. It was a punch in the face. Yeah, in Memphis. But anyway, let's get back to this show because now it turns into the AWA's chronology from '85 to '90. Even though I'm just trying to focus on the September 3rd, 1985 edition. So we don't have to talk about the classic match here. We could talk about the tag team that's going to challenge the Road Warriors for those AWA Tag Team Championships. Wild Bill Irwin and Scott Hog Irwin, the Irwin brothers, better known to you and I as the Long Riders, TW. And, the Long Riders, again, this was another squash match, but it was the funny thing that they said here, TW. These are two bad teams. These are two bad dudes. Let's be honest here, TW. But the way the Long Riders cut their promo against the Road Warriors, they sounded like the good guys to me. What say you, TW? They fought like heels in the ring, but yet their promos, they're trying to be the hero.
They literally look like they left their stand at the carnival to have a quick match real quick. They both had front butts, and Wild Bill is wearing Cher's boots, and then they talk how this is how we dress in the streets, and the Road Warriors are the ones wearing face paint, getting it in our eyes because it's melting in our eyes. They're the ones cheating, and they did, and he was soft-spoken, right? Like, not, we'll kick your ass, boys. And then Hog didn't even talk, did he?
No, he said a few sentences. It was an exclamation point.
Bill is the goon, right?
Yes, I do know that.
Because Hog had died. He died of cancer, I think.
Mm-hmm. He was a serviceable hand, but again, visually, I guess I'm going to have to do like you. We're going to talk about other teams and probably other years, but Road Warriors against the Freebirds, it's a 3-on-2 thing. Road Warriors against the Russians, it looks like an even keel match. The Long Riders look like the guys from the bar that says we could take on the bouncers, TW. That's the way the visual looks to me, but it doesn't look realistic. Am I wrong here with the visual, or were you sold on the potential that the Long Riders could beat the indestructible Road Warriors?
I'm going to tell you this. This is one of the few things I do remember because they did have me thinking they could hand them, because it was almost like the bikers versus the bikers, right? Like,
okay. Like the Hells Angels of LA against the Hells Angels of Atlanta.
Right. Or the Texas version of bikers or whatever. They just, because they didn't come off as cowboys, and then their name's the Long Riders, which obviously means wrangling horses or whatever the hell or cows, whatever the hell Long Riders do. But to me, they came across as bikers because that's the kind of bikers that lived in my neighborhood. They looked like them. They didn't look like fucking Road Warriors. That's some Mad Max damn biker shit right there. But I absolutely thought, and which is odd because really, I want to say I don't remember the Road Warriors as heels ever. But if they were, it was AWA like early. And then they got cheered, so then they became baby faces. But I don't remember. It might be just
the early 80s, you could say, and I'll be honest here, everywhere they fought as heels, but the crowd was just, because of the way they looked, they were just so enamored.
Weren't they heels with that 6-man belt and then ended up being faces with Dusty, and then they became 6-man champs with Dusty? But didn't they fight Dusty in the beginning?
They came in as heels after the AWA stuff, let's just say. But it took the Russians to turn them into the American good guys. That was the easy thing. So after their feud with the Russians, then they were baby faces no matter what they tried to do.
And because they were so likable. But the thing was, you almost have to have them as baby faces because the look of them, especially in '85, they were monsters. They weren't huge like Hogan, but there were two of them, right?
And they sang, TW. They sang a song here, so they have to be baby faces. They can't be heels like this.
That was horrible, man. That's a knock on their legacy right there, my friend.
No, it's not. That enhances their legacy because they're multitasking. They're multi-talented. Yes, they sang Reflectionites. So, Big Ray, the executive producer, will play the song here on the PWR podcast for your listening pleasure. So let's get into the main event here, TW, where it was for the AWA Heavyweight Championship of the World. Ricky Martel, I hate it when Ron Tragar just always called him Ricky Martel, defends his title against Fabulous Freebird Terry Bam Bam Gordy, accompanied by Michael P.S. Hayes and Buddy Roberts initially, and then they were kicked out. You know the funny thing about this episode here, TW? You know who got the biggest pop that wasn't a wrestler?
Eric Bischoff.
Nope. The referee, Dick Worley. Every time they announced Dick Worley's name, the fans went, yeah, Dick Worley. I don't know. He was a celebrity there, but that's neither here nor there. But we know, for Terry Bam Bam Gordy, TW, he was a former UWF champion, so it's believable that he can carry a company. But, I don't know. He's a man that's, he's a three-headed monster, but I don't see it. I didn't see it in the UWF, and I don't understand why it was not Michael P.S. Hayes, getting this shot on ESPN television. Am I right, wrong, and different, or are you going to be biased for your UWF guy?
Why did you say Michael Hayes? It was Terry Gordy.
No, I'm just saying that for visual purposes, it should be Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes should have been the UWF champion even there, too. He should have been the UWF champion, not Terry Gordy. And the same thing with AWA. He should be the number one contender here.
But Terry, I'm going to say this. Terry Gordy, I am absolutely guilty of underappreciating. Like, you talk about untapped potential, you were getting that from me. Buddy Roberts was the worst, but Terry Gordy was just...
He's the muscle. Like, he's the muscle of the Freebirds. Right, you can't deny that.
He came across as like your... What's the dude Gallows played with CM Punk? Or Festus. That's what he came across as to me. Like,
oh, God, that's bad.
No, but okay. You know what I mean? But, like, for real. Like, that wasn't his character. I just felt like that's what he would be like in real life. But, dude, right off the rip, he does a sunset flip to Rick Martel. When I hear sunset flip and look up, I'm expecting Martel to be sunset flipping him. He does it. And he almost, like, your guy, Mike Awesome, was a Sid Vicious wrestling like Rey Mysterio. And then you got Terry Gordy wrestling like Sean and Marty. Like he wrestled a high flyer, not luchador, but high flyer match. Like, if he would have tried, could have hit a Frankensteiner before Scott Steiner. The dude was athletic, but he doesn't look like... He looks like he'd be an offensive or defensive lineman, not a damn runner.
I just want to say this. I love the Fabulous Freebirds, and, you know, I understand, just like the New Day, when one wins, we all win. I like that sentiment. Even when Terry Gordy was the UWF Heavyweight Champion, you know, Buddy Roberts felt like he was co-holding that title, and even Michael P.S. Hayes was holding that title. It's just like the New Day when Kofi Kingston won the heavyweight title at WrestleMania. They all feel like the Band of Brothers thing. But I'm just looking at it business-wise, TW. I just think for you know, theatrics, Michael Hayes brings the charisma of a greater storyline than Terry Gordy. I think he's just the muscle to be that level dude for Ricky Martel to, like, climb that big mountain to overcome all the odds. What say you, TW?
I think you're saying on paper, Michaels versus Michael P.S. Hayes versus Martel is a better match, and I would agree with you until I saw Terry wrestle him. He blew me away. Again, you have to remember, they're trying to do the Hulk Hogan, and you need the more scary big guy chasing him for the belt. It'd be like Hogan fighting Bundy or Hogan fighting Gilbert, right? I mean, Hayes isn't Gilbert, but in comparison to Bundy, he's the size. You know what I mean? So I think the threat is Gordy's the bigger guy who Martel can't handle, and they go Broadway.
Yeah.
That alone makes Terry Gordy better than you think he is, because he did a draw. It was only 20 minutes, but, you know, he ain't a 60-minute man. But, dude, he worked. I was pleasantly surprised, because everything I ever watched Terry Gordy do
wait.
was brawl.
Hold on. The sunset flip surprised you. You marked out for the sunset. What else did you mark out for with Terry Gordy's athletic prowess here?
Just the headlock takedowns. They were working, and they ran the ropes, and they did. It wasn't.
Well, Terry Gordy is athletic. That's
what I mean.
For a big dude, he's athletic.
You don't think that looking at him?
No, I think because, like you said, he looks like Festus.
How do we talk about the Long Riders and not talk about Nails?
Well, who cares about Nails? I mean, Kevin Kelly was in this match, but he was jobbing. He was tiny. He was
tiny in there.
Yes, he did.
Shit too. Like, he should have been out of the ring. He's lucky they didn't kick his ass, because when his partner, by the way, that was a shoot superplex, because that guy did not want to take the bump. Did you notice? He held onto the rope, then he lets go and lands on his arm like Scott Hogg Irwin.
He broke it. I think he broke. He broke his shoulder.
He broke his will. I never seen that guy again.
He got his $20 and a hot dog and a handshake and goodbye to the business. But let's get
and a pat in the butt and said, "This ain't for you, kid."
Let's get back to Terry Gordy. Now, here's where you're impressed about the Broadway. I think the Broadway hurt Ricky Martel status as the heavyweight champion. Going Broadway, to me, especially in the 80s, TW, it was Ric Flair. You know, when you go Broadway, Ric Flair on a 20-minute draw or 30-minute draw or 60-minute draw, that gives the challenger more respect. But Ricky Martel going Broadway with Terry Gordy, to me, hurts the credibility of the AWA Heavyweight Champion. Agree or disagree?
You got to say that again in a way I can understand it, because I was reading something.
Well, Rick Martel doing a draw. Yes. Hurts his credibility as champion in comparison to Ric Flair going a draw in the NWA. I think it hurts his credibility more.
You're absolutely right, because Ric Flair going a draw is him escaping with his belt, right?
Right.
Rick Martel as a babyface shouldn't be trying to escape, and then they make it worse, because I don't know if you noticed in the post-match interview, He says, you guys went to a draw. I'm sure you didn't expect that, but that means you got past this one. Who's your next challenger? And I thought, whoa, how do you just dismiss Gordy, who took him, because that's how
to the limit.
That's how Sting got over, because he took Flair to a 45-minute draw, and everyone's like, whoa, this kid's got potential. Wouldn't that be the same for Terry Gordy? Like, dude, Terry might only needed 3 more seconds to beat him. And the match did end with Martel on the offense, but it looks like he couldn't do it. Right. So how do you say you got past the challenge? You didn't get past the challenge. I think it made him look weak too, 100%. Absolutely. But I know they were saving Terry Gordy. Or, if being honest, because the Freebirds were very, very known for just, oh, okay, we're leaving and leave. Because they were in the WWF. I didn't even know it until years later when you hear stories about, they're like, okay, bye. And they left because they don't want to do things they're not going to do. They were the team version of Piper. I'm not jobbing to them, and just left.
Well, 2 things. The Freebirds were about their money, and they were about their status. So if they were not getting either ones, they were going to leave. And after this, they went to UWF. So it was months before they even debuted in Bill Watts' UWF time.
Gordy probably refused to do the job, and that's why they just dismissed him and said, yeah, you made it past them. What's next?
Right. So
that's their excuse.
But it did not help Ricky Martel as the AWA champion, Reflection Nights. That's why I say Ric Flair going a 45-minute draw to Sting not only makes Sting, but again, the formula for the heel champion to do a draw, he escapes with his championship, not the babyface escaping. It doesn't help a babyface. The babyface needs to be the hero. He needs to be strong, and he needs to win by any means necessary, whether it's a countout, disqualification, a pin, small package. It needs to be done that way.
You know what they should have done?
What should they do?
Terry Gordy should have been holding him, and Michael Hayes hit Terry Gordy with the shoe, and Martel ducks. It's the easy out, and he just got lucky because he outsmarted him by ducking, but instead it's a draw. It made no sense to me that was a draw.
Or the old-fashioned way where, if Michael Hayes did that and the referee, the referee didn't see it, but the second referee from the back was watching on the monitor, reverses the decision and says it's a disqualification. Terry Gordy could have been the champion here, TW, and, they could have reversed it. I think that would have worked. Everybody would have been happy that way. But, that's hindsight booking here, Reflection Nights. So, TW, closing thoughts about the AWA. You're actually mortified with all the champions and how old they are, number one. So, we understand what they're trying to do here for 1985 purposes. They're trying to keep up with the Joneses or trying to keep up with Vince McMahon and what he's doing with the expansion.
Or trying to keep their head above water.
Trying to keep their head above water with ESPN. Trying to invade WWF. This, again, like we said last week, in the 80s, you're going to Tropicana, New Jersey. This is WWF country. This is the tri-state. WWF owns the Meadowlands. WWF owns Madison Square Garden and Nassau Coliseum, respectively. WWF owns Philadelphia Spectrum
Garden.
So, they always said that Vern Gagne's biggest weakness was his attitude and stubbornness. Everybody said that Vern Gagne should have held down Minnesota, should have held down Chicago, should have held down Colorado, but he chose not to. He wanted to expand when he should have just been a libertarian and held to his home state, TW. What say you? And we'll close it out.
I was surprised to hear they were in Atlantic City when they said that. I thought when they said at Tropicana, I'm waiting for them to say in Vegas. Because they ended up at that showboat or whatever that was.
Right.
They did a lot of stuff in Vegas, which is like doing a residency. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But going to Atlantic City, and I think the crowd was full. I don't remember. I really didn't pay much attention to the audience because, like I said, a lot
of who knows it? Who knows if it was a paying crowd? Sometimes that's part of the cover charge.
Right. But I was going to ask you a question, right? Because I said Boston Garden, and sold it. But remember when we were kids, and granted, we only watched wrestling once a week, and like you said, they basically had a territory. Even though New York was their home base, they still did shows in L.A., Texas, Florida, WWF. But I remember that Santana lost his title to Macho Man at the Boston Gardens, and Hogan body slammed Andre the Giant at the Pontiac Silverdome, and Bruno Sammartino did what he did at Madison Square Garden. Hogan won his belt at Madison Square Garden. So it's crazy how that now I couldn't tell you the name of the city, let alone the name of the damn building, and because there's just so much that you just, I remember a couple different WrestleManias because of the set. Like Tampa's always a pirate set, for whatever reason, some kind of theme with the pirate.
Well, the Buccaneers have the pirate ship.
Right. No, I know, but they address it in the gimmicks too, right? So, and then Dallas really was just because it was so damn big. And then the Superdome, because Hogan called it the Silverdome. Otherwise, I wouldn't, I do remember, because it's still nuts to me that they did a WrestleMania at the Meadowlands in March, outdoors. It's insane to me. That was Rock versus Cena.
Right.
I think that was the one Rock won.
Yeah, it was Giant Stadium. No, that was Cena. Cena won the second one at Giant Stadium.
But there had to have been heat vents above that ring, because, dude, some of these dudes are out there in their draws.
No, that year was pleasantly warmer. It wasn't
still March.
That. It was warmer. It was in the high 40s with a heating. It was good.
40s in my underwear outside. I don't want to wear shorts in the 50s. And you're telling me I'm going to wrestle my underwear.
People were comfortable that particular year.
At the Flint IMA Sports Arena. My buddy likes to bring this up all the time. I wrestled in the Flint IMA Sports Arena, and it was so empty. I was like, when I got there, there was a lot of people there for an indie show, but it wasn't capacity. Because I remember when we come in, we had to get, you're the talent, and they did the thing where they escort us to where we need to park, and I'm like, man, this is going to be a huge show. It was not a huge show. The floor was full, and then the stands, whatever, but it's an ice rink. So they just had the cover over the damn ice, and then we wrestle. I came out, and it was so quiet at first. Actually, I might be mixing two different places up, but that place, I froze my ass off, and I wore a shirt when I wrestled and shorts. And I was wrestling, I don't know if you ever heard of Ronnie Vegas, but he was the NWA World Light Heavyweight Champion.
This was the show where your nipples were hard, right?
Yes. And
okay.
So while we're getting ready to wrestle, I look around and I go, damn it, did they pay the heat bill in here? And everyone laughs, right? And then my buddy outside the ring, my manager's like, oh, shit, dude, it's freezing. And he's not even wrestling. He's just standing there watching. So he's just shivering. And then by the time I got wrestling, I warmed up. And I think I lost by disqualification or something because he was the NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion. They brought the belt back.
You did not care. You just wanted to get to the sauna or something. You wanted to get to the hot
I was
hot
stoked to be wrestling in an arena. I ain't going to lie to you.
Oh, okay.
I knew what that arena was. The Flint Generals play hockey there. And then when I got there, I'm like, fuck, it's cold in here. And then I wrestled somewhere else in like Grand Rapids, Michigan, where there was 10 people. And I said, oh, all right, someone want to hit the switch on the heat because it's cold. And that was indoors. So it was the arena. But the arena, we were wrestling over ice. That made a huge difference.
All right, Reflectionites, that is another riveting episode of the PWR podcast here at the PWR Networks at Podbean.com. You know, it was great talking about the AWA. And again, what we're going to do for the next couple of weeks, we might just do WCW. We might do World Class. We might do Global. Who knows? Stay tuned, Reflectionites. Stay tuned. We might do a spotlight. We might do rivalries. We might do the movies. You never know what the PWR podcast does. So TW, give out those socials so we can get out of here.
Yeah. So obviously the show is at PW Reflection. Then you got Big Ray, who makes it all happen. By the way, he passed the test last week, guys. When I said if he really listens to our shows, insert this here, and he flat out told me he will not insert this here. I don't even remember what it was, but he proved that he does this. And he told us, I listen to every show you guys ever do. God bless you, Ray. But that's at Big Ray Hernandez. I have at TommyWonder19 at Twitter and Instagram. Instagram's a much nicer version of at TommyWonder19 than that Twitter. And then the other Twitter for wrestling and pop culture is at TheTommyWonder. Facebook.com/Tommy Wonder. Our good man JB, he's still in traction from that booty sex. Well, anyway, at the P1.
His butt hurts for some reason, but who knows?
The Dum Dum Duo and the Idiot. We finally did the Strunning Fish Challenge, and by the way, I crushed it. My two cohorts, however, had a rough time. It's actually probably the most responses we've ever gotten to a video. And people are just dying of laughter from it. So I think, unfortunately, that means we're going to be doing a lot of basically nasty foods now instead of hot foods. But my mouth's still not healed from doing the hot stuff, and we haven't done a video in 5 weeks until yesterday. So that tells you how bad that. I mean, that hot stuff hurts. I ain't going to lie to you. I'm an idiot. That's why I'm in the Dum Dum Duo and the Idiot. And then BigVitoBrand.wixsite.com. He makes it happen for us on the Twitch. Is that what we're on? The Twitch?
Mm-hmm.
And then Patreon.com/The Big Vito Brand. So thanks to Big Vito for those things. And Big Ray. You can't not thank Big Ray. And
shout out to Big. Thank you. And shout outs to Big Ray and Big Vito, respectively. You can find me on my Twitter at PWRSO PROF. That's PWRSO Prof. And of course, follow my brothers in arms from the PWRSO, Billy Ray Valentine, the man with the documents, Mr. Infinite Fringe himself at Obi-Wan You Know Me. And of course, the king of the reactions on the PWRSO YouTube page, 8-Track Brown at 8-Track Dastardly. So, we ended this right. Rest in peace, Don Cronodal. Rest in peace to the gangster New Jack. I'm going to put up the X sign. We'll see you next time, Reflection Nights. Peace.
I think we need to do ECW.
An ECW spotlight. Maybe we should do that.
Yep.
We will find an ECW episode. So rest in peace, New Jack. See you next time, Reflection Nights.